Well, it's morning in America. Welcome to Table for Debate. I'm one of your hosts, Sean. I'm a graduate at the University of Tennessee with a degree in history and political science. And my partner in crime to my immediate right is Greg, a one time city and Knoxville council candidate, my lifelong best friend, and the defender of freedom for all Americans. Greg, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Sean. Thanks for having me. I like the new name, Table for Debate. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the world today.
It has been a very busy couple of weeks in American politics, and me and your head's been both spinning. But I thought that this joint session of Congress where Trump does this joint address, basically a full State of the Union address, would be the perfect time for us to get together and talk about it. So, my first question to you: what was your biggest surprise from Trump's speech to the joint session of Congress?
Uh the Democrats. From Green standing up and getting kicked out to them with their signs just looking oh so sad while Trump dished his remarks. I mean, I wasn't shocked that it happened, but I was definitely that was that's kind of surprising.
We were both tweeting back and forth to each other over Facebook Messenger going like, "I can't believe they kicked them out. I
Yeah.
have never seen anybody get kicked out."
Wow.
And I have watched a few of these, and we can easily talk about the representative from Georgia, Miss Green, who has heckled a few times during Biden's administration, and if there was a candidate for somebody else to get tossed out before Green, it would be the other Green.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I don't know what she'd done exactly, but like at least with him, like it was definitely, he was there to cause a scene, be hurt, and pause what was going on. And I think his goal was to get kicked. Thanks.
I do believe that he had a mission, and he accomplished this mission by getting escorted out of the building.
Yeah.
So my big surprise of this speech, Greg, was the fact that there was rumors going around all day Tuesday that Trump was somewhere in the speech was going to mention he was ready to pull the United States out of NATO. And I was going like, this would be a big watershed moment in U.S. history. We are a founding member of NATO. We have been in NATO since 1945. It's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, basically guaranteeing protection of European countries and the United States in case of attack by any of their enemies, i.e., Russia, most likely during the Cold
Mhm.
War. But he did not mention this.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting, I guess, since so much has been going on with Ukraine and Zelensky lately. I do see his concern with NATO, with the Europeans putting, a more even spread of contributions. It seems like the U.S. is the giant chunk of NATO's budget or income, um, and then there's the tricky stuff, um, with and the NATO encroaching on Russia's borders. Like that's why Russia's up in arms. But um, yeah. I don't know. I think he's really wanting to get them to pay up. I don't think he'll pull out. I think he's wanting to get them to pay up.
See, I'm with you there, Gray. I feel like him trying to tease this withdrawal of the United States from NATO is more to get the funding levels of the European nations to
Yeah.
maybe not the United States level, but closer to it. So he can take some of that money that we do put into NATO and hopefully pay down the national debt, which seems to be his main theme in this speech is he's on the crusade to try to balance the budget and pay down the national debt.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that won't happen in its entirety during his 4-year term, but I think we got to start doing that and going that direction because I mean, 36 started to 37 trillion in debt or whatever we have now. The interest payments that we have on that every year now are it's like we spend more on that than defense spending now, and defense spending's big, and that's just servicing the debt. And so, like, that's not sustainable. Like, it'll drown us, and who knows, I think they just print a bunch more, but then we get inflation again.
Exactly, and eventually, at some point, you get hyperinflation, and
Yeah,
you're
people are just burning the streets to stay warm.
exactly, we become Venezuela, basically.
Yeah,
So, you did send me over a poll that was taken by CBS News right after the speech went off the air, and according to those who they polled, 76% of those viewed this address in a positive manner, and that was plus 3 to 4%, which is a average margin of error in any poll you see out there doing any kind of political polling.
yeah,
And then good old CNN here had another poll where 69% of Americans, they said, had a positive reaction to Trump's address. And, I got to say, I had some moments where I was like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. There was a few moments where I was just rolling my eyes, but for the most part, I was kind of there with this speech and going like, this seems to be the direction he would normally go. This is an atypical Trump speech.
yeah, yeah,
So, so I think the biggest thing where I started disagreeing with Trump was, to me, there's always this Republican same old tune. They kind of blame the administration before them coming into power for issues that they're trying to fight. And I'm talking about illegal immigration, where Trump over and over and over went, the previous administration had open borders, da 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 da. Da. Um, I went out looking around the information superhighway, and according to Newsweek, I saw the article during Biden's 4 years from 2021 January to November 2024, when we had the last numbers for Biden's administration, 4.6 people, 4.6 million people were removed from the United States during that time period. And we do have numbers for Trump's one term so far was 2.1. That's his first term before Biden. And during Obama's two terms, it was 5.3 million. Now, this could be a lot of people getting kicked out, come back, kick out, come back, which I can see that being a possibility, Greg.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. Also, I just seen briefly some other things about this, that the classification of what's deported, is it someone that's trying to come in and then they've turned them away? Are they counting that as being deported? Or is it deporting people who have already entered illegally and we've found them and deported them? Like, that's what I think of, um, for the for deportation. But you know, I don't those numbers right now, because Trump has essentially gotten the people trying to cross the border now to almost nothing, especially compared to how many were trying to cross during the Biden administration. And the Democrats actively encourage that, and especially with the sanctuary city talk, and now they spent countless billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. These cities have at, like, New York and stuff. When we could have solved it easily with, like, Trump showed that. You know, got it shut down. No one's trying to come in illegally now. So I don't know. You know those numbers of looking at deportations from the different administrations is something, but um, I think the bigger picture is which administrations were actively encouraging people to even come in illegally and stay here. That's a problem. So
Uh, Honestly, the people who help bring these illegals into the country, they kind of know during a Democratic administration, it's probably more easy to get people into the country. So you see a large number of illegal immigrants make that move from Central America up through Mexico to the United States during a more favorable political situation here in the States. And once the Republicans come into power, these same people know that, hey, this is going to be a harder issue to get these people across the
yeah,
border. So they kind of don't do that many runs. Just wait and bide their time to more favorable conditions occur back in the States. And here we go again. It's just an endless
yeah,
cycle. If you go look at this from like back from probably Carter onward, you can see this up and down trend of people coming across the borders over time.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, there's definitely a lot of economic reasons that people, are there in general that are fleeing certain countries and going to, like, in places in Europe and stuff like that. Like, countries around the world have been hit pretty hard, and there's just the influx. But yeah, I mean, I just think bottom line, and I don't know many people that really disagree with this statement, but that we really do need to know who's coming into the country, and whether we expand, what I don't know what the number is on legal, the number that we allow every year, if it's 100,000 or a million or whatever, if we can expand that, that's fine. But we do have to know who's coming in, and we can't just you know not know that, because that's a bug in the system that a country can exploit, and or a group, or some sort of group can exploit and just get people into this country.
That's
Bad,
very
bad.
true, right? Now, me personally, I feel like we've been approaching this situation the wrong direction. I feel like we should offer some type of amnesty, but not total amnesty. Whoever here is illegal needs to announce themselves as being here illegally. They have already get 2 strikes. If they have another strike, they get sent back to their home country. And we can pair this with a type of Marshall Plan for Central America and Mexico, where we help make those countries better. Because we did a lot of interventions during the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s because we did not agree with the government in power, because that government was a little more friendly to the Russians, and we decided, hey, we're going to help whoever doesn't like them. Their enemy is our best friends for the moment until we find another situation where we repeat the process. And this is the biggest factor in what we see today in illegal immigration to the States, is we see these countries in Central America who are not as stable as
Yeah,
the United States.
yeah, it's bad in some of those countries. Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing that's always puzzled me with, like, thinking of all the cartels and stuff like that. It's like, man, like, what is it gonna take for them to get stability down there if their own governments aren't gonna, and their own, the people, I guess, aren't gonna stop it, like, because there's talk that Trump is wanting to send, US forces against the cartels. And I don't know if I necessarily like that idea, because that's just an odd thing, I think, for us to be going in and killing people in someone else's country. I don't know.
See, that's going to be a very hard play to do, especially with Mexico, because you're literally
Mm.
trying to do special ops in a foreign country who kind of don't want you to do special ops in said foreign country.
No.
Now, I kind of agree with the fact that Trump put these cartels onto the terrorist group list. I feel like they should be there because, I mean, they are a threat to the United States. So I will agree with him that he should have this on this list. And we should be kind of pressing Mexico, going like, hey, we can help you here and
Yeah, that's what I
see
hope
what
they
we could do.
do. That's, yeah. Like, I think that would be best case scenario, is like, hey, let's do a little partnership here, really build things up over X amount of years or whatever, and then hopefully y'all can it could stay down.
True, but I mean, the fact that these cartels have been running rampant through Mexico and have got their hands inside all levels of government in
Yeah.
Mexico. There's certain parts of Mexico where the government will not go to, like,
Yeah.
especially the south part of Mexico is a lot of areas where the cartels are technically the government. I think the other big point of this speech that kind of stuck out to me was when Trump was starting talking about the Social Security Administration, and there's this report where a ton of people in America are age super over 100 to 150, 140. I think one was registered at 320 some odd years old. Now, apparently, Greg, the Social Security Administration uses this software system, which there's a lot of data points where they don't have peoples with death dates. And these people without death dates are the ones we're seeing with these super ancient ages. But according to the Social Security Administration, they're not getting benefits. And I have learned that since 2015, the Social Security Administration stops payments automatically at age 115. And they start checking on recipients around the age of 90 to verify that they are living with us and are still eligible to receive their benefits.
Yeah, I mean, I that would make sense. Because and I think that from what I've heard, while they have found those, I don't think that they verified that payments are going to those people or those records or whatever or not yet. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It just seems like I mean, we've got hundreds of millions of people in this country. There's going to be some anomalies. I feel like, but uh,
Now, now in the same report, Greg, the general mm, see attorney, the watchdog over the Social Security Administration, he had said that there's actually the biggest part of the. I'm going to be back up here and say this the way I want to say it. The person in charge of looking over the Social Security Administration said that 0.84 overpayment is the biggest error they done, and that through the time period of 2015 to now was roughly about $18.6 billion. I think like that is something we need to look into. The fact that we overpaid benefits to people to the tune of $18 billion. That's a nice piece of change.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So my big that's one of my big beefs about the Social Security is the fact that we had these overpayments. The second thing is after I learned that the system is the reason why all these inaccurate data is there, I'm going like, hi, Musk, can we just get a system? Can you whip us a system up so they can actually put this information in so we can clear the roll?
I think that's his plan. Honestly, is to streamline and get the government upgraded and connected because so much of the government is administrative and um, just information and documents and stuff whizzing around. And so, I
And
mean, if you can streamline that stuff, because I'm sure there's a bunch of offices out there, they're still just printing everything, and having file systems everywhere. But I think that's a good goal, to have is if we can streamline the government and get more bang for our buck.
very true. I gotta say, it's the classic right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and there's so much of that happening in DC, and
Mhm.
we both can agree about that.
Yeah, there's some saying, I'll probably butcher it, but it's something like, you know, money is blown. Like if you're spending someone else's money on someone you don't know. I totally butchered that thing. I forget what it is, but it's like basically if you don't know whose money it is and you don't care who it's going, like you don't like what's $10 billion.
It's very true. Exactly.
And that's what Elon was saying on that on the Rogan podcast was because basically what's happened. He goes, the government basically has a bunch of these Netflix and Hulu subscriptions that that since administrations have changed, it's kind of like they've not discontinued them. And except for it being like $20 a month, it's like $20 billion a month to this company, 20 billion to that company. And they were just never cut off, because it's just there's so many people involved, and then every 4 to 8 years, it's just
Okay,
you're
so
on something.
something else we learned during the speech is Trump actually mentioned during the speech that Elon Musk is officially the person in charge of the Department of Dodge. And I saw the story where a lawyer has already filed suit because technically, if this is a true department, Musk should have been appointed and approved through the Senate system.
Yeah, I I would have to look at that more because there's so many different classifications and so many different things. It's just like I don't know. I would think that it's fine. It's probably but
I kept thinking about this today while I was at work. I'm going like, if Trump could have done this in hindsight, he could easily bicep this problem or optics problem by easily saying, "I'm going to create a SAR of Dodge." It's saying like instead of government efficiency, you have a SAR of efficiency, and that SAR is, oh, by the way, Musk. He's my special advisor, and that way he didn't have to have this issue with the whole department thing and needing Senate approval from us being there. So
Yeah, that stuff. It's a little. The difference between, I guess, like, the FBI and, these certain departments and stuff like that that have been established. And then, Doge has been established, but it's what is it categorized? How is it different from, you know, the FBI and all this? I don't know.
so I'm going to go to our next question. And during the speech, while he didn't really mention much about the Ukraine, he did mention that both he talked to the Ukrainian president and talked to the Russians, and they were willing to come to the table. While this speech was going on, there was a news story going on that Russia was firing missiles and using drones to attack Ukraine at the same time. My question to you, Gray, is should we consider Ukraine as a for membership in NATO? And if we put them into NATO, do they need to be a voting member in NATO, or should we just make them like a special protectorate in NATO?
Like our little brother. Like, don't pick on our little brother. So,
Because if you give them full access, full membership access to NATO, since Russia is technically attacking them, they can call on the other NATO members to come to their aid, and
um,
that would kind of force our hands to put boots on the ground in the Ukraine.
yeah, it could get interesting. I know. I think didn't the UK just recently say something like we're ready to have planes in the air and and all this stuff if they need to. I mean, best case scenario, like dream world here is like if they can work out a situation to where Ukraine's good, Russia pulls out, they have certain guarantees, um, and then have them in. Yeah, I think that would be good. But yeah, for kind of the reasons that you had said too, it's kind of like, yeah, it could end up pulling everyone into it at this point. Should they be allowed now? I don't know. Because they're currently in war, and so that would pull us all in. But even though we've been sending them stuff, a bunch of money and a bunch of weapons and vehicles. But yeah, I mean, I think best case scenario, yeah, eventually. And but yeah, right now I don't know. I don't know if it'd be great. What do you
See, see, to me personally, I feel like you're never going to get the Russians to the table if they know eventually down the road somehow Ukraine's going to get their way into NATO. I feel like we just need to keep the Ukraine as an associate member or an unofficial member, but this is let the Russians know that if they come back into the Ukraine, they're going to see us there looking at them going like, "Hi, do you have a problem? Do we need to solve the problem for you?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see kind of what happens, especially after that meeting, and then Zelensky kind of going back and forth on the mineral contract and then not doing it, and that's gonna play a role. Um, yeah, it's gonna be up to a few big decisions here coming up soon. It feels like.
See, the thing that annoyed me the most about that meeting was the fact that Trump went on live and had that spat with the Ukrainian president and saying like, "I'm sorry, you don't have the cards live."
So
It's perfectly fine to have that opinion for yourself behind closed doors, but when you get in front of the cameras, you need to present a united front to keep all your cards to your chest so you can deal with the Russians. That's my personal opinion.
yeah, well, when I was watching it, I thought the first 50 minutes or whatever were great. They were in there just kind of cutting up with each other. It seemed like they're all on the same page talking about stuff. And where I felt it kind of switched, and Zelensky kind of touched on it when he posted about it, I don't know, a day or two after, about how, you know, some countries like the US and stuff, like, they don't have this hatred of Russia like they do, and because they've been, at war with them for so long, and basically, I guess the way that, it just kinda got to him, kinda how the discussions with that they were talking about with Russia, involved in all this, that when he kinda got aggressive, there with JD, and then right after that, which I think was a this part was a big mistake when he said something to the effect of like, "You have an ocean protecting you now, but you're gonna feel it soon," which I don't think that's a threat, but just to even say that, you know, that's when Trump was like, "No, no, 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 you're not gonna tell us what we're gonna feel," and that's when the mood changed. Like, that's when everything just went, and so, like, when I saw that, I was glad Trump said something. Um, it's nothing that you wanna see on camera, it's not pretty. Um, you know, and it's, and even Trump said something like that, about, doing this in front of the media and stuff, whatever. But yeah, it was an interesting, meeting for sure. But it seems like they're still in discussion. So, I mean, it's not like it's been severed. So that's,
Exactly. I feel like they had a momentary blow up, and
yeah.
unfortunately, it was a blow up on camera.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, somewhere in the Kremlin, Putin was looking at that, going like, "Oh, what a great day this was! What a
Oh,
great
I'm
day!"
sure. Yeah, I'm sure he's just shaking his head. It's just like, oh, man. Yeah. I don't know.
It's gonna be interesting with the Ukrainians because I feel like they're gonna have to come to a very hard realization. There's gonna have to be some land given to the Russians here in order for the Russians to feel like they got something to pull out. I feel like we're past the point of no return on the fact that to declare or demand the Russians to not have any gains in territory. I feel like this was a failure of the Obama administration when there was the Russians were moving to the Crimea, and Obama kind of warned the Russians like, "Hey, if you do this, there are going to be consequences." And oh wait a minute, it's 2025, and those consequences, I still
Mhm.
don't know where they are.
Now, yeah, nothing. Yeah, Putin didn't hold back there. I really, really do hope Trump can pull it off. And it's unfortunate, like you said, like when Trump was in the speech the other night, how he said, he could cure cancer or whatever, and the Democrats just, you know, pouting, frown, and it's unfortunate because I really do think that Trump can pull this off with Putin, and get that done with hopefully no more, uh, you know, war. It seems like right now it's, you know, not as not as heavy as it had been from what I understand at least, but, um, yeah, it could take a turn.
Well, coming out of this speech, I feel like there's gonna be a period where nothing's gonna happen between the Democrats and the Republicans, just for the simple fact I feel like both of them are to their corners, and
Mhm.
they're not willing to meet somewhere in the middle. And really, I feel like it's just both sides' faults. I feel like they need to put their hurt feelings to the side and get back to work and get this thing rolling because we had seen a divided government for the last 8 years, and it does not do a lot of stuff, and that's why we're still in this position.
Yeah. No, it's the divide between the 2 parties is so much. I remember seeing some graph, you might have posted it when we did this a few months back, but it was something like how the Senate or and Congress, or that how they voted on things. It used to be much more kind of a mixed bag of people, and now it's like pretty much right, left voting on things. It's pretty much party line on everything now. It's just whoever has the majority who's
Is
going to
that
get anything done.
exactly? Because right now the Republicans need every single vote in the Congress to pass any bill forward to the Senate, and they
Yeah.
have that very thin majority. And we're talking about 5 people. Like
Mhm.
you probably have 5 friends you can go to lunch, and that's the majority that the Republicans have every day when they go into the
Yeah.
office to try to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, it seems like it's worked out okay for them so far. And they got, little under 2 years to kind of go full throttle as much as they can. But, yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap up the show here with this one because um, Elon Musk went to Twitter today to talk about how the Biden administration killed a bunch of lay egging chickens, and I got looking at it going like, Elon, do you know that we have the bird flu going on, and the only way to really eradicate the bird flu once you get the bird flu into a livestock is to kill off a bunch of livestock
Yeah, it's
to stop
unfortunate.
it.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. I mean, it is, the bird flu, I think it started in 2022 or something like that. Um, you know, egg prices have been going up ever since on top of all the other stuff. Um, but yeah, they did like, and I remember the news for a little bit back when this was happening, they didn't, I don't think anyone really knew why. And it was just like, why are well, there was like hen houses or bird houses catching on fire. What? It was like chicken coop,
Yeah.
chicken things were catching on. I don't know. I guess they were just trying to kill all the chickens. They had to.
So you take out this large supply of laying chickens, and this is what's been driving the prices of eggs up for the last year and a half. And unfortunately, there's no signs of this stopping. And analysts are predicting that egg prices could go up another 40%.
Yeah, no, that would suck because they're already almost $6 now. You get even the Walmart brand. It's like 5
You,
bucks.
you know, Greg, I was looking at work today as I was looking at the eggs. I was shopping, doing online grocery for people. And we have the box, which is like 5 dozen eggs, if I remember right. And that 5 dozen box of eggs is almost $30. I saw
Yeah,
this.
it'll eventually come back down. I mean, it's a market thing and it sucks right now, but yeah, eggs are used in everything.
It's bad when Waffle House starts telling you that, oh, hey, we're going to add a 50-cent surcharge for eggs.
Yeah, I know.
But, ladies and gentlemen, that has been your episode of Table for Debate. Now, I will ask you to leave your comments in below. Decide if Greg won this round or I won this round. In the next episode, the winner will do the closing monologue to this podcast. Greg, I can put you on the spot right now for a monologue. Do you want to do a monologue?
Sure. Thanks for having me again, Sean. This is fun. We'll have to set up another date here soon. Um, yeah, this is an interesting time in our country. I think it's one of the biggest changes in a government that we've seen in a long time. Like they're coming in literally like with a wrecking ball and changing things, and change is different sometimes. I think most of these people have very good intentions. I for one, I'm pretty stoked with what Trump's built and the people he has on board. Um, you know, I'd like to see kind of what they do, and I hope people get a good um not distrust of the media, but like the media has their objectives. They're going to spin things. They're going to leave certain tidbits of information out, and I think as we move forward and headlines are blaring in our faces and all that stuff. We take in consideration kind of like what's going on. I think at the end it'll all be all right. I think everyone's got the best intents at heart, but time will tell.
More no more wise words have been said, Greg. Time will tell.
Yeah.
We'll table this debate for another time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this episode. Please do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, tell a friend, and we'll see you next time on Table for Debate.
Have a good one.